Not with force, not even with words at first, just her hand on my wrist. Calm, certain, like she already knew I wasn't ready. It was my third week at the print shop on Market Street. The place smelled like warm paper and burnt toner, and the old laminator made this tired wheezing sound every time it finished a job. I'd taken the job because it was close to my apartment and because I needed something steady, something that didn't ask too many questions. She owned it. Marina, mid-40s, maybe a little older. I never asked. She wore her hair pinned up most days, loose strands falling out by noon like they'd given up pretending. Button-down shirts with sleeves rolled exactly twice. A silver watch. No rings. The first thing I noticed wasn't that she was attractive. It was that she didn't rush. Customers rushed. Delivery drivers rushed. I rushed. She didn't. She'd just look at you for a second too long before answering, like she was weighing whether you deserved the full version of her response. The day it happened, I'd knocked over a stack of freshly cut flyers. They scattered across the floor like oversized playing cards. Sorry, I muttered, already crouching to gather them. She came around the counter without saying anything. Kneeling across from me, she picked them up slowly, aligning the edges against her palm with small, precise taps. It's fine, she said, but her eyes were on my hands. You're moving like something's chasing you. I laughed. Too quickly. Just trying not to mess up. You're going to mess up, she replied, finally looking at me. That's part of being here. There was something in the way she said here. Not the shop. Not the job. Just here. I stood up when the last flyer was stacked. My knee cracked from crouching too fast. I brushed my hands on my jeans like I'd done something harder than pick up paper. I'll redo the whole batch, I said. It was my fault. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something subtle, clean, not sweet. Her fingers wrapped lightly around my wrist before I could turn toward the machine. I tried to stand up straight. She pulled me back down. Not physically, just enough pressure to stop me from moving. Ethan, she said quietly. She almost never used my name. Look at me. I did. And that was the problem. There was no anger in her face. No disappointment. Just this steady, assessing expression, like she could see every reason I was so quick to take the blame and didn't think much of it. You don't have to earn your place every 5 minutes, she said. My mouth opened, then closed. I wanted to argue, or joke, or shrug it off. Instead I said, I know. But it came out smaller than I meant it to. A customer walked in, the bell above the door jingling. She let go of my wrist immediately. The absence of her hand felt louder than the bell. She moved behind the counter, switching tones effortlessly. Confident. Polished. Slight smile. Watching the customer the same way she'd watched me, only softer now. I stood there for a second too long before returning to the cutter. All afternoon, I felt it. That pause between us. That half second where she didn't let me escape into productivity. Later, when we were closing up, she handed me a mug of coffee she'd reheated. You forgot this, she said. It was cold anyway. I hadn't touched it since morning. Thanks, I replied. She leaned against the counter, arms folded. You don't always have to fix things immediately. I gave a small nod. What if I want to? Her lips curved, not a full smile. Something more private. Then at least make sure they're actually broken. The shop lights buzzed overhead. Outside, traffic moved in a slow blur past the window. I should have said something else. Something lighter. Instead, I just held her gaze a second too long. And when I finally looked away, I realized I was still thinking about the way she said my name. Like it wasn't just a label. Like it was something she'd decided to keep. The next time it happened, it wasn't dramatic. It was raining, the kind that turns the shop windows into blurry mirrors. Business had slowed. Just a couple of students printing last-minute essays and one elderly man asking for copies of something handwritten in blue ink. Around 6, the lights flickered once. The laminator coughed and died. Marina didn't swear. She just stared at it like it had personally disappointed her. I'll take a look, I said too quickly, already stepping behind the machine. She didn't stop me this time. She just moved a little to the side, folding her arms, watching. I crouched down and unscrewed the panel. The metal was warm under my fingers. I could feel her presence behind me, not close enough to touch, but close enough to register. You don't have to prove you're useful, she said lightly. I'm not, I replied. I just don't like when things stop working. There was a pause. The kind that doesn't feel empty. Neither do I, she said. I glanced back at her. She was looking at the rain outside, not at me. I fixed the jam in less than 5 minutes. It was simple, a crumpled sheet caught in the rollers. When I stood up, she was closer than I expected. I almost bumped into her. Heroic, she murmured, but her smile didn't quite land. Up close, I noticed the faint shadows under her eyes. The careful makeup couldn't hide how tired she looked tonight. One of the loose strands of hair had fallen completely from her clip, brushing her jaw. You okay? I asked before I could filter it. She blinked, like I'd tapped on glass. She didn't expect anyone to notice. Of course. It was automatic. Polished. I didn't move. You look exhausted. A small breath left her. Not a laugh. Not a sigh. Something in between. That's a bold thing to say to your employer. I didn't mean it like that. I know. She rubbed her temple with 2 fingers, then dropped her hand quickly, as if she'd revealed too much. Just didn't sleep much. Why? The question slipped out softer this time. She hesitated. And that's when I saw it. Not weakness exactly. Just a crack. A fraction of a second where she weighed whether to tell me something real or keep the line intact. Life, she said finally, with a shrug that didn't convince either of us. A customer walked in again, saving her from whatever might have come next. She straightened immediately, voice shifting, shoulders back. I watched the transformation happen in real time. Later, after closing, we counted the register together. Our hands brushed when we both reached for the receipt roll. She pulled back first. Sorry, she said, though it didn't sound like an apology. It's fine. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was aware. She capped her pen, then looked at me. Really looked. Not assessing. Not instructing. Just looking. You don't have to stay late every night, she said quietly. I don't mind. I know, she replied. Her fingers rested on the edge of the counter, tapping once, twice. Then she stopped, like she'd caught herself. For a second, I thought she might say something else. Something that would tilt everything slightly off balance. Instead, she stepped back. Go home, Ethan. But the way she said it, low, almost reluctant, made it feel less like a dismissal and more like a warning. It was past 9 when the power blinked out. Not completely, just enough to reset the computers and leave us in that dim, humming half-light from the emergency strips along the ceiling. We both froze. Backup generators should kick in, Marina said, already moving toward the storage room. I followed without asking. The rain hadn't stopped since afternoon. It hit the back alley door in steady sheets, like someone drumming impatient fingers. The storage room was narrow, shelves stacked with paper boxes and ink cartridges. When she crouched to check the breaker panel, I had to stand close just to fit. Too close. Her shoulder brushed my thigh as she leaned forward. Neither of us moved away. Flashlight, she asked. I pulled my phone out and turned it on. The beam cut across the small room, landing on her hands. They were steady, but slower than usual. I noticed a thin scar along her knuckle I hadn't seen before. Hold it higher, she murmured. I did. The light caught her face in angles. Cheekbone, the curve of her mouth, the crease between her brows. She looked younger like this. Or maybe just unguarded. You ever think about leaving? She asked suddenly. Leaving what? This. She gestured vaguely. The shop, the rain, the city, maybe even me. I swallowed. Sometimes. And I don't. She glanced up at me then, the question still hanging between us. Why not? I could have said rent. Stability. Habit. Instead I said, because I don't think I'm done here. The breaker clicked back into place. The lights flickered on fully, too bright, too revealing. She stood up slowly, and this time there was no space at all between us. I could feel the warmth of her through the thin fabric of her shirt. My hand was still holding the phone between us, useless now. Her phone started ringing. The sound cut through everything. She stiffened. Not dramatically, just enough that I felt it. She stepped back to answer it, turning slightly away but not leaving the room. Hi, she said, her voice changing, lower, clipped. I told you I'd call tomorrow. A pause. No, I'm at work. Another pause. Longer. Her jaw tightened. I watched the way her fingers pressed against her temple again, the same way they had 2 nights ago. I can't have this conversation right now, she said quietly. Not like this. She hung up without waiting for a response. I looked at the floor, giving her the privacy she hadn't asked for. Sorry, she said after a moment. For what? For that. It's not my business. She studied me like she was trying to decide if that was maturity or distance. It was my ex, she said anyway. He doesn't understand the word finished. The air shifted. I nodded once. I wanted to ask more. I wanted to say something protective, something bold and stupid. Instead, I shoved my hands into my pockets. Does he come here? I asked. Once, she replied. He won't again. There was something final in her tone, but not peaceful. The rain softened outside. The shop felt smaller now. She stepped closer again, not touching, just close enough that our knees almost brushed. You're very careful, she said, almost to herself. About what? About not crossing lines. I met her eyes. Should I be? Silence. Not awkward. Not safe either. Her gaze dropped to my mouth for half a second, maybe less, then lifted back to my eyes. Ethan, she said, and my name sounded different this time. Thinner. I could have closed the distance. It wouldn't have taken much. Instead, I stayed exactly where I was. And she didn't move away. It wasn't dramatic. No shouting. No slammed doors. Just a Tuesday that felt too tight. We were closing early because business had been slow all afternoon. The sky outside was that dull gray that makes time feel stalled. Marina was wiping down the counter for the second time. I was reorganizing paper that didn't need reorganizing. We were performing normal. You missed a spot, she said, nodding toward the glass near the register. I walked over, wiped it clean. Our reflections blurred together in the surface. Her just behind me, not touching. Ethan. The way she said my name this time didn't sound instructional. It sounded tired. I turned. She was leaning against the counter, arms folded, but not defensively. More like she was holding herself still. What are we doing? It wasn't sharp. It wasn't accusing. It was quiet. Almost curious. I let out a small breath. Working. Her mouth twitched like she expected that answer. You know that's not what I mean. The shop hummed around us, refrigerator in the back, faint buzz from the lights. The world didn't care that something was about to tilt. I shrugged, but it felt weak. I'm not doing anything. That's the problem. I frowned. So you'd rather I what? Cross a line. She pushed off the counter and walked a few steps away, then back again. Restless. I'd never seen her restless. I don't want you to cross a line, she said carefully. I want to understand why you're standing right on top of it. The words sat between us. I swallowed. You're the one who keeps pointing it out. Her eyes flashed, not anger. Something closer to frustration with herself. I'm 46, she said, like that explained everything. You work for me. People talk. Lines exist for reasons. And I'm not a kid. I know that. Then why does it feel like you're the only one allowed to decide what this is? The second it left my mouth, I wished I could pull it back. Her face changed. Not defensive. Hurt. That's not fair. Then tell me what this is, I said, softer now. Because I'm trying to act normal, Marina. I really am. But you keep looking at me like what? I hesitated. Like I'm about to disappear. The silence that followed felt heavy, almost physical. She looked away first. Toward the window. Toward the street. Anywhere but me. You think I don't see it? She asked quietly. The way you watch me. The way you go quiet when my phone rings. The way you stay late even when there's nothing left to do. I didn't deny it. She stepped closer, slow enough that I could have stepped back if I wanted. I didn't. This isn't a game, she said. And it's not harmless. I know. Do you? Her voice thinned. Because I'm the one who has to live with the consequences. The word consequences hung there, ugly and real. I searched her face for something steady to hold on to. All I found was conflict. I'm not trying to make this harder for you, I said. I know you're not, she replied. That almost broke me. Her hand lifted slightly, like she was going to touch my arm. It hovered there, close enough that I felt the heat from her palm. She let it fall. We can't keep pretending this is just nothing, she whispered. I nodded once. My throat felt tight. Then what is it? I asked. She looked at me for a long time. Long enough that I felt exposed in ways I couldn't explain. And when she finally answered, Her voice wasn't confident anymore. It's the kind of thing that ruins people who don't know when to stop. The shift didn't come from a fight. It came from a drawer. She asked me to grab the spare receipt rolls from the desk in the back office. It was a small room, filing cabinet, old desk lamp, a corkboard with outdated delivery schedules pinned crookedly. I'd never had a reason to look around before. The top drawer stuck when I pulled it. I tugged harder. It slid open with a sharp scrape, and something thin slipped out, landing face down near my shoe. I bent to pick it up automatically. It was a photograph. I didn't mean to look. I did anyway. A younger version of Marina stood on a beach somewhere, hair longer, sunlit. She was laughing, head tilted back, eyes closed. Beside her was a man about my age, early 20s, maybe younger. His arm was around her waist like it belonged there. There was something about his smile. Not identical, but close enough that my chest tightened. You found it. Her voice wasn't angry. It was resigned. I turned slowly. She was standing in the doorway, watching me, not rushing to take it back. I'm sorry, I said, holding it out to her. She didn't take it right away. That was Daniel, she said. The name hung in the air. He was 23. She gave a small, almost humorless smile. Thought he knew everything. I didn't know where to put my eyes. Was he? My son. The word landed heavy. I felt the air leave my lungs. She stepped forward then and took the photo from my hand, her fingers brushing mine without either of us acknowledging it. He died 8 years ago, she said. No tremble. No tears. Just fact. Car accident. He was driving too fast, trying to get home before a storm. The room felt smaller. I didn't know, I managed. Of course you didn't. She set the photo carefully back inside the drawer, but didn't close it. I don't exactly lead with it during customer transactions. I almost smiled. Almost. That's why your ex calls. I asked quietly. She shook her head. No, that's a different kind of loss. She leaned against the desk, arms crossing, but not defensively, like she needed something to hold her up. You remind me of him sometimes, she said. There it was. Not accusation. Not romance. Just truth. In what way? My voice came out thinner than I wanted. The way you try to fix everything immediately. The way you get quiet when you're hurt instead of loud. She looked at me then, really looked. The way you stand on the edge of decisions like you're waiting for permission. I didn't know what to do with that. I'm not him, I said carefully. I know that, she replied quickly. Too quickly. Silence settled between us again, but this time it wasn't charged, it was fragile. I pulled away from everyone after he died, she continued. Friends. Family. I made the shop my whole life because paper doesn't crash into trees. My chest tightened. And now? I asked. She gave a small shrug. Now you're here. And I don't know if that's healing. The way she said it, uncertain, almost afraid of the word, shook something loose inside me. I don't want to be a replacement, I said. You're not, she replied. And for the first time, her voice cracked, barely, but enough. She stepped closer, searching my face like she was trying to separate past from present. I just don't trust myself to know the difference yet. That hurt more than I expected. I nodded slowly. I'm still here, I said. She closed the drawer gently this time. I know, she whispered. And the way she said it didn't sound relieved. It sounded terrified. It didn't happen all at once. There was no grand decision, no dramatic speech, just a Thursday night that felt like it had been building for months. We'd closed early again, not because we needed to, just because neither of us pretended anymore that staying open late was about customers. The shop was quiet, lights dimmed except for the one above the counter. Rain threatened outside, but hadn't started yet. The air felt heavy, waiting. Marina sat on the stool behind the register, staring at nothing in particular. I leaned against the opposite wall, hands in my pockets like I was trying to keep them out of trouble. I've been thinking, she said. That's usually dangerous, I replied softly. A faint smile touched her mouth. It faded quickly. I don't want you to carry something that isn't yours. I knew what she meant without her saying his name. I'm not, I said. I don't feel compared. She studied me carefully, like she was looking for cracks in that answer. You should, she said. It would be easier. For who? She didn't respond. Instead, she stood and walked around the counter. No rush. No hesitation this time. She stopped a step away from me, close enough that I could see the faint line near her eye when she narrowed it slightly. I've spent 8 years keeping everything contained, she said quietly. Grief, anger, wanting things I shouldn't want. You make it look easy, I said. It isn't. The honesty in her voice didn't shake. It settled. I took a breath. I don't need you to be certain about the future. Her eyes flicked up at that. I just need you to stop acting like I'm a mistake waiting to happen. That landed. Her jaw tightened, then softened. You're not a mistake, she said. Not quickly, not defensively, deliberately. Then what am I? She didn't answer with a word. She stepped forward. Slowly, carefully. Her hand lifted, not hovering this time, and rested flat against my chest. Over my heartbeat. She didn't press hard, just enough to feel it. I could feel her hand trembling. Barely, but it was there. This, she said quietly, almost to herself. This is what scares me. I covered her hand with mine without thinking. Not trapping it, just holding it there. I'm scared too, I admitted. That surprised her. You are. I don't want to lose this by pretending it doesn't exist. The room felt smaller, but not suffocating. She exhaled slowly. The kind of breath someone takes before stepping into cold water. I can't promise I won't pull back sometimes, she said. I know. I can't promise I won't confuse you with my past. I'll remind you, I replied. Her lips trembled into something close to a smile. You're very sure of yourself tonight. No, I said honestly. I'm just tired of standing outside something that already feels like home. That did it. Her forehead rested lightly against mine. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just skin against skin. Warm. Steady. We stood there like that, breathing the same air, not fixing anything, not defining anything. Outside, the rain finally started. Her fingers tightened slightly against my chest, not to push me away, just to stay. And for the first time, neither of us moved. I didn't stand up that night, and she didn't pull me back down. We just stayed there, two people who finally stopped pretending the tension was imaginary. It's been a year. The shop still smells like warm paper and toner. The laminator still wheezes like it's personally offended by overtime. Some things don't change. But we did. Not in a dramatic way. No sudden reinventions. No declarations shouted into the rain. Just small, steady shifts. She doesn't flinch when her phone rings anymore. Not the way she used to. Sometimes she lets it go to voicemail. Sometimes she answers and keeps her voice calm, firm. Finished means finished now. I don't rush to fix every broken machine the second it jams. I don't apologize for breathing too loudly or standing too close. I stopped trying to earn my place every 5 minutes. That might be the biggest thing she gave me. The ability to stay without performing. And I gave her something too. Not a replacement. Not a rescue. Just presence. There are still days she goes quiet. I've learned the difference between distance and overwhelm. When her shoulders stiffen, I don't push. I just hand her coffee and lean against the counter nearby, close enough to remind her she's not alone, far enough to let her choose. We don't talk about Daniel every day, but sometimes she tells me stories, the reckless way he used to drive, the stupid jokes he thought were hilarious. She smiles when she says his name now. Not every time, but more than before. The first time she reached for my hand in public, it wasn't dramatic either. We were at a supply store arguing over paperweights. She just threaded her fingers through mine mid-sentence, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I remember looking down at our hands and thinking how strange it was that something that once felt dangerous now felt steady. People did talk, at first. They always do. Age gaps make strangers uncomfortable. Assumptions travel faster than truth. But here's what I learned. Love isn't always fireworks. Sometimes it's restraint. Sometimes it's two people standing at the edge of something risky and choosing to step forward anyway. Not because it's easy, but because pretending it's nothing hurts more. She didn't ruin me. I didn't save her. We just met each other at a line neither of us wanted to cross alone, and decided to redraw it together. There are still moments when I catch her watching me the way she did that first week. Measuring. Wondering if I'll disappear. I don't. And sometimes, when I start moving too fast, trying to fix something that isn't broken, she'll touch my wrist lightly and say my name. Not to pull me back down. Just to remind me I'm already here. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?